Good evening, weary travellers of the night, seeking solace from the day's burdens. Imagine a blood-streaked helmet, half buried in wet sand, cradling rainwater like a soldier's final offering to the sea. This is Normandy, June 1944, 6 days after the fury of D-Day, where the air hums with salt, smoke, and sorrow. If this journey through history soothes your restless mind, please consider a like or subscribe. It helps keep these stories alive. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what hour cloaks your world. Share below to join our quiet community. So, dim the lights, let a fan's hum cradle you, and sink into a tale of a chaplain, 32, armed only with a Bible and notebook, stepping onto Omaha Beach. His task, to honor the fallen, weaving their stories into the tapestry of a war-torn dawn. The wooden door of the makeshift warehouse groans shut behind you, its hinges screeching like a mourner's wail, sealing away the clamor of the Allied camp. Only the wind remains, whispering through the Normandy dawn, carrying the sharp tang of salt and the acrid bite of lingering gunpowder. You stand at the edge of Omaha Beach, 32 years old, a chaplain clad not in armor but in faith, your hands clutching a worn Bible and a notebook that already feels heavier than the dawn's grey light. The sand beneath your boots is sodden, cold as a grave, pocked with the scars of war. Twisted metal shards, abandoned helmets cradling rainwater, and the faint outlines of boot prints that lead nowhere. 6 days ago, this beach was a crucible of fire and blood, where thousands stormed ashore under a hail of bullets. Now it lies silent, save for the mournful lap of waves and the distant rumble of artillery, a reminder that the war churns on beyond the horizon. You take your first step, and the sand yields grudgingly, as if reluctant to release its hold on the stories buried beneath. Your task today is not to inspire men before battle, nor to wield a rifle, but to walk this haunted shore, to find the fallen, to name them, and to offer them the dignity of remembrance. The wind tugs at your coat, sharp with the scent of seaweed and something darker, metallic, that clings to your throat. You glance at the sea, where the silhouettes of warships loom like silent sentinels, their guns quiet for now. The sky is a leaden shroud, pressing down on the world, and you wonder if it weeps for the men who lie scattered across this shore, their dreams snuffed out like candles in a storm. Your fingers tighten around the notebook, its pages blank but destined to carry names, places, and fragments of lives you'll never know. As you move forward, the beach unfolds its grim tapestry. A rifle, its stock splintered, juts from the sand like a broken cross. Nearby, a canvas pack lies half submerged, its contents spilling into the tide. Soggy letters, a tin of rations, a photograph curling at the edges. Each object is a relic, a tether to a man who once laughed, loved, or prayed. You pause, kneeling to retrieve the photograph, its image blurred but still discernible. A young woman smiling, her hand resting on a child's shoulder. You slip it into your pocket, a silent promise to return it to someone who waits, unaware that hope has already drowned in these waves. The irony isn't lost on you. Here you are, a man of God, collecting fragments of lives as if they were offerings, while the sea seems to mock your efforts, washing away blood, but not memory. The grave's registration team is already at work nearby, their figures hunched against the wind, moving with the mechanical precision of men who've seen too much death to flinch. You join them, your boots sinking into the sand, each step a reminder of the weight you carry, not just the Bible, not just the notebook, but the burden of bearing witness. A young private, his face pale as the morning mist, points to a body half covered by sand. one arm outstretched as if reaching for something just beyond grasp. You kneel beside him, brushing away the grit to reveal a face frozen in youth, eyes closed as if in sleep. You murmur a prayer, the words soft against the wind's howl, and jot down his name from the dog tags. Private James T. Harrow, 29th Infantry Division. The private watches you, his eyes hollow, and you wonder if he sees the same ghosts you do. The act of recording feels futile, yet sacred. Each name is a defiance against oblivion, a vow that someone somewhere will know where their son, brother, or husband fell. You move to another body, this one tangled in barbed wire, the metal biting into flesh like a cruel embrace. His dog tags are gone, but a letter peeks from his pocket, its ink smudged but legible. "Dear Mary," it begins, and you stop reading, folding it carefully, as if it were a holy relic. The wind carries a faint chuckle from a soldier nearby, muttering about how the barbed wire must have thought it was getting a hug. You don't smile, but the bitter jest lingers, a fleeting spark of humanity in this desolate place. It's the kind of humor born from staring too long into the abyss, a way to keep the heart from breaking entirely. Your path takes you beyond the beach, into the dunes where the grass bends under the weight of dew and memory. The ground here is uneven, scarred by shell craters that gape like open wounds. You pause at one, its edges blackened, and find a helmet nestled within, its interior stained a dull red. It's a grim chalice, holding rainwater mixed with something darker, and you think, unbidden, that it's the closest thing to a baptism this place will ever see. You shake off the thought, scribbling its location in your notebook, but it clings like the damp chill in your bones. The war has stripped this land of innocence, yet you walk on, driven by a quiet resolve to give these men the farewell they deserve, to ensure their names are not swallowed by the tide. As the morning stretches on, the weight of your task grows heavier. Each body you find is a story cut short, a life reduced to a name, a number, and a place on this forsaken shore. You think of the families waiting across the ocean, clinging to hope as fragile as the paper in your pocket. Your role is not to fight, but to bridge the living and the dead, to carry their stories from this bloodied sand to those who will mourn them. The irony is stark. You, a man trained to speak of salvation, now collect fragments of loss, as if piecing together a puzzle that will never be whole. Yet, in this act, you find a flicker of purpose, a way to honor the living by remembering the fallen. The wind shifts, carrying the distant clatter of the camp, a reminder of the world beyond this beach. You glance back at the warehouse, its silhouette faint through the mist, and feel a pang of gratitude for its fleeting shelter. Out here, there is no refuge, only the endless task of naming the nameless, of praying for those who can no longer pray. Your Bible remains unopened, its words too vast for this moment, but your notebook grows heavier with each entry, a testament to lives that ended here. You stand, brushing sand from your knees, and take another step, knowing that each one carries you deeper into a history written in blood, a history you are tasked to preserve, one name at a time. The sand crunches beneath your boots, a gritty requiem under the heavy Normandy sky, as you tread across Omaha Beach, where the ghosts of D-Day linger like unhealed wounds. The wind, sharp with salt and sorrow, whips at your coat, carrying echoes of a battle fought 6 days ago, when this shore was a maelstrom of fire, steel, and desperate courage. You, a chaplain at 32, move through the aftermath, your Bible tucked close, your notebook a silent witness to the lives you must reclaim from the tide's indifferent grasp. The beach stretches before you, scarred by tank tracks and boot prints that weave chaotic patterns, as if the earth itself tried to flee the carnage. Waves crash against the shore, their foam tinged with a faint rust, washing away blood but leaving behind a metallic scent that clings to your lungs like a memory too stubborn to fade. Each step stirs fragments of the past. A shattered rifle barrel juts from the sand, its muzzle gaping like a mute scream. Nearby, a tattered scarf, once blue, now grey with mud, flutters in the breeze, tethered to a splintered crate. You pause, your eyes tracing the path of a single boot print, half erased by the tide, leading to nowhere, a futile sprint toward survival, frozen in time. 6 days ago, this beach was alive with the chaos of invasion, as men of the 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions stormed ashore under a hail of German machine gun fire. The history books will call it heroism, but here, in the damp chill of dawn, it feels like a sacrifice too vast for words. You open your notebook, its pages already curling from the sea's breath, and begin to mark the coordinates of a body half buried in the dunes, its silhouette a stark reminder that courage often ends in silence. Kneeling beside the fallen soldier, you brush away sand to reveal a face too young for the lines etched by fear and fatigue. His dog tags glint faintly. Private William R. Carter, 116th Infantry Regiment. You jot down his name, the numbers a fragile tether to a life left behind in some small American town. The act feels both sacred and Sisyphean, as if you're trying to hold back the sea itself. You whisper a prayer, the words swallowed by the wind, and wonder about the mother who might still be setting a place for him at dinner, unaware that her son now rests in this foreign sand. The weight of your task settles deeper, a quiet burden that presses against your chest, heavier than the Bible in your pocket or the notebook in your hand. Beyond the dunes, the landscape shifts to low hills, pockmarked by shell craters that gape like the Earth's own grief. A discarded canteen lies in one, its strap tangled with seaweed, as if the sea tried to claim it as a trophy. You pick it up, it's metal, cold and slick, and find a name scratched into its surface. Tommy, Ohio. A faint smile tugs at your lips, unbidden, as you think, Tommy must have thought this canteen would outlast him. Guess he wasn't wrong. The wry thought fades quickly, replaced by the ache of knowing Tommy's story ends here, on a beach far from home. You slip the canteen into your pack, a small act of defiance against the war's erasure, promising to return it to someone who might still call his name. A soldier from the Graves registration team trudges past, his face a mask of exhaustion, his shovel slung over his shoulder like a reluctant cross. Found another one up ahead, he mutters, his voice flat, as if the words have lost all meaning. You nod, following him to a shallow trench where a soldier lies, his uniform torn, one hand clutching a grenade that never left its pin. The trench smells of damp earth and something sharper, a reminder of the body's fragility. You kneel again, your fingers trembling as you search for identification. No dog tags, but a sodden letter in his pocket begins. Dear Clara, I'll be home by Christmas. The ink bleeds into illegibility, and you tuck it away, knowing Clara's Christmas will be forever dimmed. The soldier nearby shifts uncomfortably, muttering about the grenade. Guess he thought he'd take a few more with him. Now it's just extra baggage. His grim jest hangs in the air, a fleeting shield against the despair that threatens to swallow you both. The morning wears on, and the beach yields more relics of the sick day. A bloodied bandage, half buried, marks where a medic's work ended in vain. A shattered radio lies nearby, its wires spilling like entrails, a testament to orders that never reached their mark. Each find is a piece of a larger mosaic, a story of men who ran, fought, and fell under the unrelenting guns of the Atlantic Wall. You record each detail meticulously, your pencil scratching against the damp paper, as if precision could restore order to this chaos. The history of D-Day is not just in the grand strategies of generals, but in these small, broken things, each a fragment of a life that once dreamed of home. You think of your own life safe in a distant parish before the war called, and wonder how you'll carry these images back to a world that expects sermons, not silences. The wind shifts, colder now, as you move toward a cluster of rocks where the tide pools in crimson-streaked eddies. A soldier's pack rests against one, its straps frayed, spilling a deck of playing cards across the stones. The ace of spades stares up at you, its edges curling, and you can't help but think it's the only card that matters here. You gather the cards, their corners softened by salt water, and add them to your growing collection of keepsakes. These objects, mundane in life, are sacred in death, each one a bridge to families who will cling to them as proof of love, loss, and sacrifice. You stand, your knees aching from the cold, and look out at the sea, its waves relentless, as if trying to erase the evidence of what happened here. But you, with your notebook and your prayers, are here to ensure it is not forgotten. As you walk on, the beach seems to breathe with the weight of its history. The sand, churned by tanks and boots, holds the imprint of a battle that changed the course of the war. You think of the men who landed here, their courage a fleeting spark against the vast machinery of conflict. Your role is not to judge their fight, but to honor their fall, to give names to the nameless and stories to the silent. The irony of your task is not lost on you. A man of faith, tasked with cataloguing despair, yet finding purpose in the act. The beach stretches endlessly before you, each step a testament to survival, not yours, but that of the memory you carry. You clutch your notebook tighter, its pages a fragile bulwark against oblivion, and continue, knowing that each name you write is a victory against the tide's relentless pull. The Normandy wind bites at your knuckles as you kneel beside a fallen soldier, his body cradled by the damp sand of Omaha Beach, his face a mask of eternal stillness under the grey veil of dawn. You, a chaplain at 32, carry no rifle, only a Bible and a notebook, their weight a constant reminder of your purpose in this desolate place. 6 days after D-Day, the beach is a graveyard of shattered hopes, its silence broken only by the rhythmic crash of waves and the distant thud of artillery. A grim pulse of a war that refuses to pause. Your hands, cold as the sea's breath, move with deliberate care, brushing sand from the soldiers' dog tags. Private Edward L. Morrow, 1st Infantry Division. You whisper a prayer, its words dissolving into the mist, and jot his name in your notebook. Each letter a fragile thread stitching memory to history. You rise, your knees stiff from the chill, and join the grave's registration team, their figures moving like shadows through the morning fog. Unlike them, with their shovels and tags, your task is not just to catalogue the dead, but to seek their final whispers, letters, notes, anything that carries a piece of their soul. You follow a corporal, his face etched with exhaustion, to a body sprawled near a wrecked landing craft, its hull gaping like a wound in the earth. The soldier's eyes are open, fixed on a sky that offered no mercy. You kneel again, gently closing them, your fingers trembling not from cold, but from the weight of this small act. His dog tags are missing, but a folded paper protrudes from his breast pocket, its edges softened by salt water. You unfold it carefully, revealing a letter to "My dearest Ellen." Its words blurred, but aching with love. Guess the sea wanted to read it first, you think. A wry flicker crossing your mind, but it's a lousy pen pal. The letter is unfinished, a promise of return cut short by a bullet's cruel precision. You tuck it into your coat, sealed in a waterproof pouch, knowing it will be Ellen's last tether to a man who dreamed of her under this same unforgiving sky. The act feels like stealing, as if you're plundering a life's final breath. Yet you know it's a necessity. Families cling to these scraps, turning them into relics of love and loss. You glance at the corporal, who's attaching a tag to the soldier's wrist with mechanical efficiency. He looks like he's sleeping, he mutters, his voice flat, but his eyes betray a flicker of grief. You nod, understanding the need to speak, to anchor oneself against the tide of death that threatens to sweep you both away. Moving along the beach, you pass a cluster of debris, a shattered radio, its dials glinting like lifeless eyes, a bloodied bandage discarded in haste, a single glove, its fingers curled as if still reaching for something lost. Each item is a testament to the chaos of June 6th, when the Allies breached Hitler's Atlantic Wall at a cost too steep to fathom. The graves registration team works tirelessly, their hands calloused from digging temporary graves, their faces hardened by the relentless task of turning men into numbers. But you, unarmed, seek something beyond statistics. You pause at another body, this one slumped against a dune, a rosary tangled in his fingers. You untangle it gently, its beads warm from his lingering heat, and note his name, Sergeant Michael J. Flynn, 29th Infantry Division. A prayer escapes your lips, not for salvation, but for peace, for a man who clutched faith until his final breath. The wind carries the scent of rust and decay, a reminder that time is no ally here. You think of the families waiting across the ocean, their letters still arriving at forward bases, filled with hope that has already been extinguished. Your role is to bridge that chasm, to ensure these men are more than names on a casualty list. You find another letter, this one tucked inside a soldier's helmet, its paper brittle from exposure. "Tell Ma I'm okay," it reads, the handwriting boyish and uneven. You fold it with care, your throat tightening at the thought of the mother who will never hear those words spoken. The corporal nearby adjusts his cap, muttering, "Bet he thought he'd outrun the Reaper. Left his helmet to take the fall instead." His words, sharp with gallows humor, cut through the silence, a brief shield against the sorrow that clings like damp sand. As you continue, the beach seems to pulse with the echoes of that fateful day. You imagine the roar of landing craft, the chatter of machine guns, the cries of men caught in the crucible of invasion. The history of D-Day is written in these sands, not in grand victories, but in the small human moments. Letters unwritten, prayers unanswered, lives snuffed out before they could bloom. You record another name, another set of coordinates, your pencil scratching a rhythm against the page, a counterpoint to the wave's relentless dirge. Each entry is a defiance against forgetting, a vow that these men will not be lost to the sea's indifference. Yet the task feels endless, as if the beach itself conspires to bury its secrets deeper with each tide. Your hands, though weaponless, are not idle. They trace the contours of lives left behind, gathering fragments that will become sacred to those who wait. A locket, its clasp rusted, holds a faded photograph of a girl with a shy smile. You note its owner's name, Private Thomas C. Reed, and slip it into your pouch, its weight a silent accusation against the war's brutality. You think of your own life before this. Quiet Sundays in a parish, sermons delivered to nodding congregants, and marvel at how distant that world feels now. Here, faith is not in grand promises, but in these small acts of remembrance, in the steady hands that record names while the heart trembles. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a collector of endings, each name a prayer, each object a testament to survival's fragile cost. The morning stretches on, the fog thinning to reveal the vastness of your task. The grave's registration team moves ahead, their shovels glinting in the weak light, carving order from chaos. You follow, your coat heavy with the weight of letters and relics, your notebook a growing archive of loss. The beach is a canvas of devastation, each wave painting over the blood, but never the memory. You pause to catch your breath, the cold air sharp in your lungs, and look out at the sea, its horizon unbroken by hope. Yet, in this moment, you find a quiet strength, not in the absence of fear, but in the resolve to carry these stories forward, to ensure that those who fell here are not forgotten, their lives etched into history by your unarmed hands. The Normandy sun struggles through a veil of clouds, casting a pale glow over Omaha Beach, where the sand lies heavy with the weight of lives lost 6 days ago. You, a chaplain of 32, tread softly across this hallowed ground, your Bible a quiet companion, your notebook a ledger of souls. The wind hums a mournful tune, laced with salt and the faint char of distant fires, as you navigate a landscape etched with the chaos of D-Day. Tank tracks carve jagged scars into the dunes, mingling with boot prints that end abruptly, as if their owners simply vanished into the sea's embrace. Each step stirs a faint crunch, a reminder of the shattered shells and dreams beneath your feet. Your task is to find the fallen, to name them, to ensure their stories are not erased by the relentless tide. You pause beside a soldier half buried in the sand, his face tilted toward the sky, as if searching for a star that never rose. His uniform, torn by shrapnel, clings to him like a second skin, and his hand grips a crumpled photograph, its edges frayed by the sea's touch. You kneel, the cold grit biting into your knees, and gently pry the photo free. It shows a young woman, her smile soft against the backdrop of a small town porch, a dog at her feet. No name marks the image, but you note the soldier's dog tags. Private Henry A. Walsh, 2nd Ranger Battalion. You whisper a prayer, its words fragile against the wind's howl, and slip the photograph into your waterproof pouch, a silent vow to return it to someone whose heart still beats for him. The sand, you think, holds faces like this one, each a story cut short, each a mirror to the fragility of hope. Moving forward, you join a grave's registration private, his eyes shadowed by days of grim work, as he points to a body nestled against a dune. The soldier's face is serene, almost defiant in its calm, as if death were merely a pause in a longer journey. You record his name, Corporal David M. Klein, 116th Infantry Regiment, and search his pockets, finding a small pocket knife, its handle carved with the initials DMK. You hold it, its weight deceptively light, and imagine the hands that shaped it, perhaps whittling by a campfire in a world far from this bloodied shore. The private, adjusting his shovel, mutters, "Bet he carved his initials everywhere, except on a ticket home." His words, sharp with the bitter edge of despair, draw a fleeting shadow of a smile from you, a nod to the absurdity of finding permanence in a place so transient. The beach unfolds its relics as you walk, each one a shard of the past. A torn map, its lines tracing a now irrelevant plan, lies half buried near a shattered sandbag. A cigarette case, dented but intact, gleams faintly, its owner's initials etched in looping script. You collect it, noting its location in your notebook, its pages growing thick with the day's toll. The history of D-Day, you reflect, is not just in the grand assault that breached the Atlantic Wall, but in these small human remnants, objects that once held meaning, now orphaned by war. You think of your past, a quiet life of sermons and community, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a beach where faith is tested not by words, but by the act of remembering. Further along, the dunes give way to a rocky outcrop, where the tide pools in shallow hollows, their surfaces shimmering with an oily sheen. A soldier lies there, his body cradled by the stones, one arm flung wide as if embracing the sea. His face, untouched by decay, holds a trace of defiance, as if he refused to surrender even in death. You kneel, your hands steady despite the chill, and find his dog tags. Private Joseph P. Larson, 1st Infantry Division. A small notebook in his pocket, its pages swollen with seawater, holds a list of names, perhaps friends, perhaps family, scrawled in pencil. You tuck it away, its weight a silent promise to those who wait. The rocks, you muse, are kinder than the bullets that felled him, holding him gently where war did not. The grave's registration private follows, his breath visible in the cold air, and points to a cluster of debris nearby, a bloodied bandage, a broken compass, a single sock, inexplicably clean. Looks like someone packed for a short trip, he says, his voice low. The jest, a fragile shield against the endless task of cataloguing death. You nod, understanding the need to find humor in the bleakness, a way to keep the heart from fracturing. You record the location of another body, this one face down, his fingers curled into the sand as if grasping for life. His dog tags identify him as Sergeant Paul R. Evans, 29th Infantry Division. A locket around his neck holds a lock of hair, blonde and fine, and you secure it carefully, knowing it will be a family's final treasure. As the morning deepens, the beach seems to pulse with the echoes of that 6th day. You imagine the chaos, the roar of landing craft, the chatter of machine guns, the shouts of men caught in a storm of steel. The history books will speak of strategy and sacrifice, but here, in the sand, it's the small things that tell the story. A letter never sent, a knife carved with care, a face frozen in time. Your notebook grows heavier, each name a weight you carry for those who can no longer walk. You think of the families, perhaps still writing letters filled with hope, unaware that their loved ones are now part of this shore's silent chorus. Your role is to bridge that distance, to ensure these men are not reduced to numbers on a casualty list. The wind shifts, colder now, as you move toward a shallow crater, its edges blackened by a long-spent explosion. A helmet rests within, its strap snapped, its interior stained with a memory that no tide can erase. You note its position, your pencil scratching a rhythm against the page, a counterpoint to the sea's relentless dirge. The irony of your task lingers. You, a man of faith, are now a scribe of loss, collecting faces from the sand as if they were sacred texts. Yet, in this act, you find a quiet resolve, a way to honor the living by preserving the dead. The beach stretches before you, an endless canvas of sorrow, but you walk on, your hands unarmed but unwavering, knowing that each name you record is a defiance against the war's attempt to erase them. The Normandy air grows heavier as you move inland from Omaha Beach, where the dunes give way to a scarred landscape, pocked with the wounds of war. You, a chaplain at 32, tread carefully, your Bible a silent anchor, your notebook a growing archive of the fallen. The wind carries a faint moan, laced with the scent of damp earth and the bitter tang of cordite, a reminder that the echoes of D-Day 6 days past still linger in the soil. The ground beneath your boots is uneven, churned by shells and desperation, and you find yourself at the edge of a shallow trench, its walls crumbling like the dreams of the men who dug it. 3 soldiers lie within, their bodies entwined with their rifles, as if death caught them mid-breath, mid-fight. The trench is a fragile sanctuary, barely deep enough to shield them from the storm of bullets that ended their stand. You kneel, the earth cold and unyielding, and study the faces frozen in the dim light. One soldier, his eyes half open, seems to gaze at a sky that offered no reprieve. His uniform, patched with blood, clings to him like a shroud, and around his neck hangs a silver cross, its surface tarnished by salt and time. You reach out, your fingers brushing the metal, and gently unhook it, wiping away the grime with your thumb. The cross gleams faintly, a small defiance against the decay around it. You note his name from the dog tags, Private Robert E. Tanner, 29th Infantry Division. A prayer forms on your lips, soft as a whisper, not for salvation, but for peace, for a man whose faith held fast until the end. You slip the cross into your pouch, knowing it will be a family's final tether to him, a relic heavier than any sermon you've ever preached. The other 2 soldiers lie close, their hands still gripping their weapons, as if refusing to surrender even in death. You record their names, Corporal John H. Merritt and Private Samuel T. Cole, both of the 116th Infantry Regiment, your pencil scratching a rhythm against the damp pages of your notebook. The trench smells of mud and metal, a grim perfume that clings to your coat. You search their pockets, finding a small sodden sketchbook in Merritt's, its pages filled with pencil drawings of a farm, a barn, a woman's face. The lines are careful, deliberate, as if drawn in stolen moments of calm. You tuck it away, its weight a silent promise to a family that will never see those fields again. The irony strikes you. These men dug this trench for protection, yet it became their tomb, a shallow grave that mocks the very idea of safety. A grave's registration private approaches, his boots sinking into the mud, his face a mask of weary resolve. They thought they'd hold this line, he says, his voice low, as he begins tagging the bodies with practiced efficiency. Guess the war had other plans. His words, laced with a bitter edge, carry the weight of too many days spent among the dead. You nod, understanding the need to speak, to find some anchor in this sea of loss. You think, unbidden, that the trench is like a bad bet, dug with hope, paid in blood. The thought is fleeting, a wry spark in the darkness, a way to keep the heart from breaking under the relentless toll of your task. You help the private lift the body, its weight heavier than mere flesh, as if the earth itself clings to these men, reluctant to let them go. The trench is one of many, a network of desperate fortifications carved by soldiers of the 1st and 29th Divisions as they pushed inland on June 6th. The history books will note the strategic gains, the capture of key positions, but here, in the mud, it's the human cost that speaks loudest. You move to the next soldier, his face obscured by dirt, and gently clear it away, revealing features softened by youth. His dog tags are gone, but a small brass compass rests in his hand, its needle still, pointing nowhere. You note its presence, a relic of a man who once sought direction in a world turned chaotic. The compass, you muse, is useless now, unless the afterlife has a map no one shared. You slip it into your pouch, its cold metal a reminder of the journeys that end here, on this unforgiving shore. As you work, the wind shifts, carrying the distant clatter of the Allied camp, a faint echo of life beyond this desolate place. You think of the families waiting across the sea, their letters still arriving at forward bases, filled with dreams of reunions that will never come. Your role is to bridge that gap, to ensure these men are more than numbers in a casualty report. You find a folded note in Cole's pocket, its paper brittle but intact, addressed to Dad. It speaks of pride, of duty, of a promise to return. You seal it in your pouch, your throat tightening at the thought of the father who will read these words through tears. The private, tying another tag, mutters, "He wrote like he'd make it home. Guess the mail's faster than he was." His jest, sharp and fleeting, is a shield against the grief that threatens to overwhelm you both. The trench seems to hold time itself, each body a frozen moment from a battle that reshaped the world. You imagine the chaos of that day, the roar of artillery, the shouts of men, the desperate scramble for cover. The history of D-Day is not just in the victories, but in these quiet, broken places where courage met its end. You record another set of coordinates, your notebook a growing testament to the fallen, its pages a fragile bulwark against oblivion. The irony of your task lingers. You, a man of faith, are now a keeper of endings, weaving prayers and names into a tapestry of loss. Yet, in this act, you find a quiet strength, a way to honor the living by preserving the dead. The morning stretches on, the trench yielding more relics of the sixth day. A shattered bayonet lies near Tanner's body, its blade dulled by rust and time. You note its position, your pencil a steady rhythm against the page, a counterpoint to the wind's mournful song. The trench, shallow and crumbling, is a testament to the soldier's defiance, a fleeting stand against an enemy that no longer matters. You think of your own life before the war, quiet Sundays, sermons delivered to nodding congregants, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a place where faith is measured not in words, but in the act of remembrance. The shallow trench, like the men it holds, is a fragile thing, yet it endures in your notebook, in the names you carry, in the stories you refuse to let the tide erase. The afternoon sky over Omaha Beach darkens, heavy with clouds that spill a cold, relentless rain, turning the sand into a clinging mire beneath your boots. You, a chaplain at 32, move through this sodden world, your Bible tucked against your chest, your notebook damp under the weight of names and places. 6 days after D-Day, the beach is a silent testament to the fury of June 6, 1944. Its dunes scarred by the violence of invasion. The rain falls in sheets, blurring the horizon where warships loom like ghosts, their silhouettes faint against the storm. Each drop stings your face, mingling with the salt of the sea and the faint iron tang of blood that no tide can fully erase. Your coat, heavy with water, pulls at your shoulders, a reminder that even the elements conspire against your task of honoring the fallen. You pause near a wrecked landing craft, its hull a twisted relic half buried in the sand, and huddle beneath a tarp with the grave's registration team. The rain drums against the canvas, a mournful rhythm that drowns out the distant rumble of artillery, a faint echo of the war that churns beyond the cliffs. You open your notebook, its pages curling from the damp, and record the coordinates of a body nearby, its form obscured by mud. The soldier's face is hidden, but his dog tags gleam faintly. Private Leonard J. Burke, 1st Infantry Division. You whisper a prayer, its words lost in the downpour, and secure a tag to his wrist, your hands trembling from the cold but steady in their purpose. The tarp offers little shelter, and you think, with a bitter twist, that the rain must be jealous of the sea, trying to claim these men for itself. The team moves on, their boots sinking into the muck, each step a struggle against the beach's greedy pull. You follow, clutching a waterproof pouch filled with relics, letters, lockets, a carved knife, that carry the weight of lives left behind. The rain obscures the details of the landscape, but you find another soldier, his body slumped against a dune, one hand clutching a sodden pack. You kneel, the mud seeping through your trousers, and search for identification. His dog tags name him Corporal Alan T. Foster, 29th Infantry Division. A small journal in his pack holds a single entry. June 5th, tell Sarah I love her. You seal it away, its brevity a knife in your chest, knowing Sarah will read these words through a veil of grief. The rain, you muse, is a better keeper of secrets than you, washing away tears before they can fall. The grave's registration private beside you, his face streaked with mud, ties a tag with mechanical precision. This rain's making a mess of everything, he mutters, his voice barely audible over the storm's drone. Guess it's trying to bury them before we can. His words, sharp with the gallows humour of men who've seen too much, draw a fleeting nod from you. The jest is a fragile shield, a way to hold despair at bay as you work through the deluge. You think of the families waiting across the ocean, their hope as fragile as the paper in your pouch, unaware that their loved ones now lie in this rain-soaked grave. Your role is to carry that truth, to ensure these men are not forgotten, even as the elements conspire to erase their traces. The beach, under the rain's assault, seems to weep for its wounds. Shell craters fill with water, their edges softening like memories blurred by time. You pass a shattered machine gun nest, its sandbags collapsed, a German helmet resting nearby, its owner long gone. The history of D-Day is etched here, not in the grand narratives of victory, but in these quiet, rain-drenched relics, each a testament to the cost of breaching the Atlantic Wall. You record another name, your pencil slipping on the wet page, and pause to adjust the tarp, its edges flapping wildly. The act feels futile, like trying to hold back the tide itself, yet you persist, driven by a resolve to give these men the dignity of remembrance. The rain, relentless, seems to mock your efforts, but you carry on, your hands steady despite the chill. Further along, you find a soldier lying face up, his eyes closed as if in defiance of the storm. His dog tags identify him as Private George W. Harlan, 2nd Ranger Battalion. A small, tarnished watch, stopped at 7:42, rests in his hand, its face cracked but still legible. You note its presence, slipping it into your pouch, and wonder about the moment it stopped, perhaps the exact second life left him. The rain pools around him, creating a halo of mud, and you think, with a wry twist, that time must be laughing now, having no more use for him or his watch. The thought fades quickly, replaced by the ache of knowing this watch will be a family's final keepsake, a frozen moment from a life cut short. The grave's registration team presses on, their figures blurred by the rain, their shovels glinting faintly as they prepare temporary graves. You follow, your coat sodden, your notebook a heavy burden. The war, you reflect, is not just in the battles still raging inland, but in these quiet acts of reclamation, where names are salvaged from oblivion. You think of your own life before this, a parish far from the sea, where Sundays were marked by hymns and smiles, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a beach where faith is tested by mud and rain. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a scribe of loss, weaving prayers into a tapestry of sorrow that no sermon can unravel. As the afternoon deepens, the rain shows no sign of relenting, turning the beach into a quagmire that clings to your boots like guilt. You record another set of coordinates, your fingers numb, your heart heavy with the names that fill your pages. The history of D-Day is not just in the triumphs of the living, but in these silent, rain-soaked figures, each a story you carry for those who wait. You pause, wiping water from your eyes, and look out at the sea, its waves churning under the storm's weight. The rain hides your tears, and for that you are grateful. Yet, in this moment, you find a quiet strength, a resolve to continue, knowing that each name you write is a victory against the war's attempt to erase them, a testament to the enduring power of remembrance. The rain over Omaha Beach thickens into a relentless curtain, transforming the sand into a quagmire that tugs at your boots like a grieving widow. You, a chaplain at 32, press forward, your Bible a sodden weight against your chest, your notebook a chronicle of soul swelling with the day's toll. 6 days after D-Day, the Normandy shore is a mosaic of loss, its dunes scarred by the ferocity of invasion, now softened by the storm's unyielding caress. The air is heavy with the scent of wet earth and the faint, metallic sting of blood that lingers despite the rain's efforts to cleanse it. Your coat, drenched and heavy, clings to you like a second skin, a reminder that even the heavens seem to mourn the men who fell here. The distant boom of artillery echoes, a grim heartbeat of a war that refuses to pause, urging you to continue your task of salvaging names from the mud. You huddle beneath a flapping tarp with the grave's registration team, its canvas barely shielding you from the downpour's icy grip. The rain drums a mournful cadence, drowning out the world beyond. As you open your notebook, its pages warped and heavy with water. You record the coordinates of a soldier lying nearby, his body half swallowed by the mire, his uniform a patchwork of mud and blood. His dog tags glint faintly through the grime. Private Charles E. Norton, 1st Infantry Division. You whisper a prayer, its words fragile against the storm's roar, and secure a tag to his wrist, your fingers numb but resolute. The mud, you think, is a greedy keeper, claiming these men as if the sea weren't enough. A wry flicker crosses your mind. Perhaps the earth itself wants a share of their stories, hoarding them like a miser with no one to pay. Moving through the muck, you find another soldier, his body slumped in a shallow hollow, one hand curled around a small tarnished ring. You kneel, the mud seeping into your knees, and gently pry it free, its simple band etched with a faint forever. You note his name, Sergeant Edward P. Hayes, 29th Infantry Division, and slip the ring into your waterproof pouch, its weight a silent vow to a family whose forever has been shattered. The ring, so small, feels heavier than the Bible you carry, a testament to a love that outlasts the man who wore it. You think of the woman who slipped it onto his finger, perhaps in a sunlit church far from this rain-soaked shore, and the grief that will meet her when this ring returns alone. The rain blurs your vision, or perhaps it's something else, and you're grateful for its cover. The grave's registration private beside you, his face streaked with mud, ties a tag with mechanical precision. "This mud's worse than the bullets," he mutters, his voice barely rising above the rain's drone. "At least bullets don't stick to your soul." His words, laced with the bitter humor of men who've waded too long in death's shadow, draw a fleeting nod from you. The jest is a fragile armor, a way to keep despair at bay as you slog through the mire. You think of the families waiting across the ocean, their letters still penned with hope, unaware that their loved ones now rest in this unforgiving earth. Your role is to bridge that chasm, to ensure these men are more than names on a casualty list, their stories preserved despite the rain's attempt to wash them away. The beach, under the storm's assault, seems to groan with the weight of its history. Shell craters brim with murky water, their edges crumbling like promises broken by war. You pass a shattered pillbox, its concrete walls cracked, a German bayonet discarded nearby, its blade dulled by rust. The history of D-Day is etched here, not in the grand triumphs of generals, but in these quiet, rain-drenched relics, each a fragment of a life that fought and fell. You record another name, your pencil slipping on the slick page, and pause to steady the tarp, its edges snapping in the wind. The act feels futile, like trying to hold back the storm itself. Yet you persist, driven by a resolve to give these men the dignity they deserve. The rain, relentless, seems to mock your efforts, but you carry on, your hands steady despite the cold. Further along, you find a soldier lying face down, his body cradled by the mud, one arm outstretched as if reaching for something beyond the grave. His dog tags name him Private Thomas R. Leland, 2nd Ranger Battalion. A small folded letter, its paper softened by the rain, rests in his pocket. "Dear Mom, I'm doing fine," it begins, the words fading into a blur. You seal it in your pouch, your throat tightening at the thought of the mother who will cling to these words as her final connection to her son. The mud, you muse, is a better vault than any bank, keeping secrets no one wants to claim. The thought is fleeting, a wry spark in the gloom, a way to keep your heart from fracturing under the weight of your task. The grave's registration team presses on, their figures blurred by the storm, their shovels glinting faintly as they carve temporary graves from the mire. You follow, your coat sodden, your notebook a heavy burden. The war, you reflect, is not just in the battles raging inland, but in these quiet acts of reclamation, where names are salvaged from oblivion. You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays, where faith was a matter of words, not mud, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a beach where hope is tested by rain and loss. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a keeper of endings, weaving prayers into a tapestry of sorrow that no sermon can unravel. As the afternoon deepens, the rain shows no mercy, turning the beach into a quagmire that clings to your boots like memory itself. You record another set of coordinates, your fingers numb, your heart heavy with the names that fill your pages. The history of D-Day is not just in the victories of the living, but in these silent, mud-soaked figures, each a story you carry for those who wait. You pause, wiping water from your eyes, and look out at the sea, its waves churning under the storm's weight. The rain hides your tears, and for that you are grateful. Yet, in this moment, you find a quiet strength, a resolve to continue, knowing that each name you write is a victory against the war's attempt to erase them, a testament to the enduring power of memory. The rain has softened to a drizzle over Omaha Beach, but the air remains thick with the damp chill of late afternoon, wrapping you in a shroud of mist and memory. You, a chaplain at 32, tread through the sodden sand, your Bible a silent weight in your coat, your notebook a growing testament to the fallen of D-Day, 6 days past. The beach, scarred by the ferocity of June 6, 1944, whispers its stories through the relics scattered across its dunes, a splintered rifle, a torn knapsack, a single glove reaching for nothing. The sea murmurs in the distance, its waves a ceaseless elegy, carrying the faint tang of salt and sorrow. Your task, as relentless as the tide, is to gather the fragments of lives left behind, to ensure that names and dreams are not swallowed by the war's indifferent maw. You pause near a crumbled sandbag wall, its edges softened by the rain, and kneel beside a soldier whose body lies half covered by the tide's retreat. His face, pale and still, holds a quiet defiance, as if death were merely a pause in a larger story. You brush away the sand, revealing dog tags that name him Private Arthur L. Bennett, 1st Infantry Division. Your fingers, cold but steady, search his pockets, finding a folded letter, its paper swollen with seawater, the ink blurred into ghostly streaks. You unfold it gently, as if it might crumble under your touch, and read the opening line. "My darling Rose, I'll be home soon." The words stop there, a promise severed by a bullet's cruel precision. You think, with a bitter twist, that the sea must have tried to finish the letter, but it's a poor poet, leaving only smudges where hope once stood. You seal the letter in a waterproof pouch, its weight a silent vow to Rose, who waits in some distant town, unaware that her future has been rewritten by war. The act feels both sacred and futile, like whispering prayers into a storm. You murmur a brief blessing, its words lost in the drizzle's soft patter, and note Bennett's name and coordinates in your notebook. The pages, damp and curling, are a growing archive of loss, each entry a defiance against the tide's attempt to erase these men. You think of the families, perhaps still penning letters filled with love and hope, unaware that their words will arrive too late. Your role is to carry these unsent letters, to bridge the chasm between the living and the dead, ensuring that love, at least, endures. The grave's registration team moves nearby, their figures blurred by the mist, their shovels carving order from the chaos of the beach. A private, his face lined with fatigue, ties a tag to another body, his hands moving with the mechanical precision of one who has seen too much death. "Another letter for the post office in the sky," he mutters, his voice low, the jest a fragile shield against the weight of their task. You nod, recognizing the need to find humor in the bleakness, a way to keep despair at bay. You move to another soldier, his body slumped against a dune, one hand clutching a crumpled envelope. His dog tags name him Corporal Daniel R. Moore, 29th Infantry Division. The envelope, unsealed, holds a letter addressed to Mom and Dad, its words faded but legible. "I'm doing my best to make you proud." You read no further, folding the letter with care, your throat tightening at the thought of the parents who will cling to these words as their final connection to their son. The rain, softer now, seems to mourn with you. Its drops a gentle veil over the beach's scars. You slip the letter into your pouch, its weight heavier than the paper itself, a testament to a life that ended here, far from home. The history of D-Day is not just in the battles won, but in these quiet, rain-soaked moments where love and loss are woven into the fabric of war. You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays where faith was a matter of sermons, not silences, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a beach where hope is tested by the weight of unsent letters. Further along, you find another soldier, his body cradled by a shallow hollow, his face turned toward the sea, as if listening for a call that never came. His dog tags identify him as Private Richard T. Hale, 2nd Ranger Battalion. A small, folded note rests in his hand, its paper brittle but intact, addressed to "My sweet Anna." The words are simple. A promise to return, to build a life together. You seal it away, knowing Anna's dreams will be shattered by this note's arrival. The drizzle, you muse, is kinder than the truth, softening the edges of grief before it reaches her. The thought is fleeting, a wry spark in the gloom, a way to keep your heart from fracturing under the weight of these stories. The grave's registration private follows, his boots sinking into the sand, his face a mask of weary resolve. These letters keep piling up, he says, his voice barely rising above the rain's murmur. Guess we're the only mailmen who deliver bad news. His words, sharp with the gallows humour of men who've waded too long in death's shadow, draw a fleeting nod from you. You record Hale's name, your pencil slipping on the wet page, and pause to steady your hand. The beach, under the rain's gentle assault, seems to hold its breath, its relics, letters, dog tags, promises, bearing witness to the cost of breaching the Atlantic wall. Each entry in your notebook is a defiance against oblivion, a vow that these men will not be forgotten. As the afternoon fades, the drizzle persists, turning the beach into a canvas of blurred memories. You think of the families waiting across the sea, their hope as fragile as the paper in your pouch, unaware that their loved ones now rest in this foreign sand. Your role is to carry these unsent letters, to ensure they reach those who wait, even if they bring sorrow. The irony is stark. You, a man of faith, are now a courier of loss, weaving prayers and names into a tapestry of grief. Yet, in this act, you find a quiet strength, a resolve to continue, knowing that each letter you save is a victory against the war's attempt to erase these men, a testament to the enduring power of love left behind. The drizzle over Omaha Beach has settled into a soft, persistent mist, cloaking the dunes in a ghostly veil as you, a chaplain at 32, tread through the aftermath of D-Day, 6 days past. Your Bible rests heavy in your coat, your notebook a swollen ledger of names and coordinates, each entry a fragile thread binding the fallen to those who wait. The sand, sodden and unyielding, clings to your boots, whispering of the lives it holds. Men of the 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions who stormed this shore under a hail of fire. The air carries the faint scent of salt and decay, a mournful hymn underscored by the distant rumble of artillery, a reminder that the war churns on beyond the cliffs. Your task is to gather the final keepsakes of these men, small relics that will carry their stories across the ocean, heavier than any sermon you've ever preached. You pause near a shattered pillbox, its concrete walls cracked like broken promises, and kneel beside a soldier's knapsack, half buried in the sand. The bag is torn, its contents spilling like secrets the tide couldn't keep. A dented canteen, a pack of cigarettes, and a photograph, its edges curled from the sea's touch. You lift the photograph, its image faint but clear. A young girl and a boy, their smiles frozen in a moment of joy. The soldier's dog tags name him Private Harold J. Vaughan, 2nd Ranger Battalion. You slip the photograph into your waterproof pouch, its weight a silent vow to a family who will cling to it as their last connection to him. The mist, you think, is kinder than the truth, softening the edges of grief before it reaches them. A wry flicker crosses your mind. This photograph, so light in hand, will break hearts heavier than any bomb. Moving through the dunes, you join a grave's registration private, his face etched with the weariness of endless loss, as he points to a body cradled by a shallow crater. The soldier's hand clutches a small, tarnished locket, its clasp rusted but intact. You kneel, the sand cold against your knees, and gently pry it open, revealing a lock of auburn hair tied with a faded ribbon. His dog tags identify him as Corporal William T. Reese, 29th Infantry Division. You note his name and secure the locket in your pouch, knowing it will be a mother's or lover's final treasure. The act feels both sacred and invasive, as if you're stealing a piece of a life you'll never know. The private, tying a tag to the soldier's wrist, mutters, "Bet he thought this locket would keep him safe. Guess it's safer now than he is." His words, sharp with the bitter humor of despair, draw a fleeting nod from you, a shared shield against the sorrow that clings like the mist. The beach unfolds its relics as you walk, each one a fragment of a life cut short. A broken watch, its hands stopped at 8:13, lies near a discarded helmet, its straps snapped. You note its owner's name, Private James R. Cutler, 1st Infantry Division, and slip it into your pouch, its cracked face a testament to a moment frozen in time. The history of D-Day is not just in the battles won, but in these small, silent objects, each carrying a story of hope and loss. You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays where faith was measured in hymns, not keepsakes, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a shore where love is weighed in ounces of metal and paper. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a collector of endings, preserving fragments that will become sacred to those who mourn. Further along, you find another soldier, his body slumped against a dune, one hand resting on a small leather-bound diary. His dog tags name him Sergeant Thomas E. Lyle, 116th Infantry Regiment. The diary's pages, swollen with moisture, hold a single entry. June 4th. Tell Emily, I'll bring her flowers from France. You seal it in your pouch, your throat tightening at the thought of Emily, waiting for flowers that will never come. The mist, you muse, is a better courier than you, carrying sorrow without the burden of delivery. The thought is fleeting, a wry spark in the gloom, a way to keep your heart from fracturing under the weight of these keepsakes. You record Lyle's name, your pencil slipping on the damp page, and pause to steady your hand, the notebook a growing archive of loss. The grave's registration team presses on, their figures blurred by the mist, their shovels glinting as they carve temporary graves from the sand. You follow, your coat heavy with the weight of relics, your heart heavier still. The war, you reflect, is not just in the battles raging inland, but in these quiet acts of reclamation, where keepsakes are salvaged from oblivion. You think of the families waiting across the sea, their hope as fragile as the objects in your pouch, unaware that their loved ones now rest in this foreign sand. Your role is to carry these final keepsakes, to ensure they reach those who wait, even if they bring sorrow. The irony lingers. You, a man of faith, are now a bearer of loss, weaving prayers and relics into a tapestry of grief that no sermon can unravel. As the afternoon fades, the mist thickens, cloaking the beach in a dreamlike haze. You pause near a cluster of rocks where a soldier lies, his body cradled by the tide's retreat. His dog tags name him Private Edward C. Morrow, 2nd Ranger Battalion. A small carved wooden cross, its edges worn smooth, rests in his hand, a testament to faith or habit. You note its presence, slipping it into your pouch, and whisper a prayer, its words soft against the mist's murmur. The history of D-Day is etched here, not in the triumphs of generals, but in these quiet, mist-soaked relics, each a testament to the cost of breaching the Atlantic Wall. You think of the families, perhaps still dreaming of reunions, unaware that their loved ones are now part of this shore's silent chorus. Your task is to ensure their keepsakes endure, a victory against the war's attempt to erase them. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a bruised purple glow over Omaha Beach, the air grows still, heavy with the weight of a day spent among the fallen. You, a chaplain at 32, stand before a row of green canvas bags, each one a silent testament to the men who stormed this shore 6 days ago, on June 6, 1944. Your Bible, damp from the day's drizzle, rests in your hands, its pages unopened but its presence a quiet anchor. Your notebook, swollen with names and coordinates, lies heavy in your coat, a ledger of souls reclaimed from the sand. The wind, now a gentle sigh, carries the faint salt of the sea and the distant echo of artillery, a reminder that the war persists beyond the cliffs. The grave's registration team gathers around you, their faces etched with exhaustion, their shovels still as you prepare to deliver a prayer for those who will never rise again. The canvas bags stretch across the clearing, a makeshift necropolis carved from the Normandy earth, each one marked with a tag bearing a name, a number, a fragment of a life. You step forward, your boots sinking into the soft ground, and begin to read the names aloud, your voice steady despite the ache in your chest. Private Leonard J. Burke, Corporal Alan T. Foster, Sergeant Thomas E. Lyle. Each name is a pebble dropped into the silence, rippling through the gathered soldiers, some of whom bow their heads, others staring into the distance, as if the horizon might offer answers the earth cannot. The dusk deepens, painting the bags in shadows, and you think, with a wry twist, that the sunset is the only thing here generous enough to give these men a proper farewell, even if it's just for show. You open your Bible, its spine creaking softly, and read a brief passage from Psalms, the words, a fragile bridge between the living and the dead. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The verses drift into the twilight, swallowed by the wind's gentle hum, but they anchor you, a reminder of why you stand here, unarmed, amidst the wreckage of war. The soldiers around you are silent, their faces a mosaic of grief and resolve, some clutching dog tags or small keepsakes of their own, as if to hold on to something the war cannot take. You pause after each name, letting the silence stretch, a space where memory can linger. Private Edward C. Morrow, Corporal William T. Reese. The act feels both sacred and futile, as if you're shouting into a void that will never answer. A young private, his face streaked with mud, shifts uncomfortably, his eyes avoiding the row of bags. Guess heaven's getting crowded tonight, he mutters, his voice low, the jest a thin shield against the weight of the moment. You nod, recognizing the need to find humor in the bleakness, a way to keep the heart from fracturing. The history of D-Day is not just in the battles won, but in these quiet, dusk-lit ceremonies, where names are spoken to ensure they are not forgotten. You think of the families waiting across the sea, their hope as fragile as the canvas before you, unaware that their loved ones now rest in this foreign soil. Your role is to honor them, to weave their names into a prayer that carries beyond the grave. The clearing, nestled between dunes, feels like a sanctuary, though its sanctity is born of sorrow. The canvas bags, neatly aligned, are a stark contrast to the chaos of the beach, where the relics of D-Day, shattered rifles, torn knapsacks, bloodied bandages, still litter the sand. You recall the men you name today, their faces etched in your memory, each one a story cut short by the storm of June 6th. Private Harold J. Vaughan, with his photograph of a girl and a boy. Sergeant Edward P. Hayes, with his ring etched with forever. Their keepsakes, now safe in your pouch, are heavier than the Bible in your hands, each one a testament to love and loss, You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays where faith was a matter of hymns, not silences, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a place where hope is tested by the weight of memory. You continue reading names, your voice a steady rhythm against the dusk's quiet. Private Richard T. Hale, Corporal Daniel R. Moore. Each pause is a breath, a moment to honor the man behind the name, to imagine the life he left behind. The soldiers around you stand in silence, some with eyes closed, others staring at the ground, as if the earth might hold the answers they seek. The wind carries the faint cry of a gull, a lonely note in the fading light, and you wonder if it mourns with you or simply sings for itself. The irony lingers. You, a man of faith, are now a herald of endings. Your prayers a bridge between the living and the dead. Your words a defiance against the war's attempt to erase these men. As the last name is spoken, Private James R. Cutler, the silence deepens, a heavy cloak over the clearing. You close your Bible, its pages untouched by the rain but heavy with the day's toll. The soldiers begin to disperse, their footsteps soft in the damp earth, returning to the camp where life, however fleeting, continues. You stand alone for a moment, the canvas bags a silent congregation, and feel the weight of your task settle deeper. The history of D-Day is not just in the triumphs of the living, but in these quiet, dusk-soaked moments where names are spoken to ensure they endure. You think of the families, perhaps still dreaming of reunions, unaware that their loved ones are now part of this shore's eternal chorus. The twilight fades, the sky a deep indigo, and you turn back toward the camp, your coat heavy with the day's relics. Your notebook, filled with names and coordinates, is a testament to the men you've honored. Each entry a victory against oblivion. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a keeper of silences, weaving prayers into a tapestry of loss that no sermon can unravel. Yet, in this act, you find a quiet strength, a resolve to continue, knowing that each name you speak is a defiance against the war's attempt to erase them. The dusk hides your weariness, and for that, you are grateful, as you carry the weight of their stories into the night. The Normandy night wraps Omaha Beach in a cloak of shadow, the air thick with the chill of dusk and the lingering scent of rain-soaked earth. You, a chaplain at 32, trudge back toward the Allied camp, your boots heavy with mud, your coat sodden from the day's relentless drizzle. Your Bible, tucked against your chest, feels like a stone, and your notebook, swollen with the names of the fallen, presses against your side like a wound that won't heal. 6 days after D-Day, the beach lies silent, its scars hidden by darkness, but the weight of your task, gathering the stories of those who fell on June 6, 1944, follows you like a ghost. The distant clatter of the camp, a faint pulse of life, beckons through the mist, but the faces you've seen today, etched in sand and memory, cling to you, refusing to be left behind. You reach the camp's edge, where the makeshift warehouse looms, its wooden door a dim outline in the gloom. You push it open, the hinges groaning like a mourner's sigh, and step inside, the clamor of the camp washing over you, soldiers' voices, the clink of mess kits, the hum of generators. You find a table in a quiet corner, its surface scarred by countless hands, and set down your notebook, its pages thick with the day's toll. The paper is damp, the ink smudged, but each entry, Private Leonard J. Burke, Corporal Alan T. Foster, Sergeant Thomas E. Lyle, stands as a testament to the men you've honored. You think, with a wry twist, that your notebook's getting fat on sorrow, as if grief could be measured in ounces of ink. The thought fades, replaced by the ache of carrying these names, each one a story you'll never fully know. A young officer approaches, his face lined with fatigue, his eyes searching yours. "How was it out there today?" he asks, his voice soft, as if afraid of the answer. You pause, the weight of the question pressing against you, and reply, "We brought them back." The words are simple, but they carry the truth of your day. Hours spent kneeling in the mud, collecting relics, whispering prayers for men who will never hear them. The officer nods, his gaze drifting to the floor, and moves on, leaving you with the silence of your task. You think of the families waiting across the ocean, their hope as fragile as the letters in your pouch, unaware that their loved ones now rest in Normandy's embrace. Your role is to bridge that distance, to ensure these men are more than numbers on a casualty list. You open your pouch, its contents spilling across the table. A photograph of a girl and boy, a tarnished ring, a carved wooden cross. Each item is a keepsake, a final tether to a life cut short. You pick up the photograph, its edges curled from the sea's touch, and imagine the family who will receive it, their joy forever dimmed. The ring, etched with forever, feels heavier than its metal, a promise broken by war's cruel arithmetic. You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays, where faith was a matter of sermons, not silences, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a place where love is measured in fragments of paper and metal. The irony is stark. You, a man of God, are now a courier of loss, carrying keepsakes that will break hearts across the sea. The camp hums around you, a fragile island of life amidst the wreckage of war. Soldiers laugh over a shared cigarette, their voices a fleeting defiance against the darkness. You think of the men you name today, their faces vivid in your mind. Private Harold J. Vaughan with his photograph, Corporal William T. Reese with his locket. Their stories, though unfinished, are etched in your memory, a gallery of sorrow you carry with you. The notebook lies open, its pages a testament to the cost of D-Day, not in strategic gains, but in the human lives that paid for them. You trace a name with your finger, Private Edward C. Morrow, and feel the weight of his wooden cross, now safe in your pouch. The camp's noise fades, and you're left with the silence of their absence. A grave's registration private enters, his uniform streaked with mud, his eyes hollow from the day's work. "Long day," he says, slumping into a chair nearby. "Guess we're the only ones who bring back more than we left with." His words, laced with the bitter humor of men who've waded too long in death's shadow, draw a fleeting nod from you. The jest is a fragile shield, a way to keep despair at bay. You think of the beach, its dunes now cloaked in darkness, and the relics you gathered. A watch stopped at 8:13, a diary with a promise of flowers. Each one is a piece of a life, a story you'll carry for those who wait. The history of D-Day is not just in the battles won, but in these quiet, mud-soaked moments where names are salvaged from oblivion. You close your notebook, its pages heavy with the day's toll, and place it beside your Bible, both now repositories of loss. The camp's warmth offers little comfort. Your coat is still heavy with rain and mud, a reminder of the beach you left behind. You think of the families, perhaps still writing letters filled with hope, unaware that their loved ones are now part of Normandy's eternal chorus. Your role is to ensure their stories endure, to carry their keepsakes across the sea, even if they bring sorrow. The irony lingers. You, a man of faith, are now a keeper of endings, weaving prayers and names into a tapestry of grief that no sermon can unravel. Yet, in this act, you find a quiet strength, a resolve to continue, knowing that each name you carry is a defiance against the war's attempt to erase them. As the night deepens, the camp grows quieter, the soldiers retreating to their tents, their laughter fading into the darkness. You sit alone, the table a silent witness to your task, and feel the weight of the faces you've seen today. They linger, vivid and unyielding, a gallery of sorrow that will haunt your dreams. You think of your own life, a world of quiet parishes and nodding congregants, and wonder how you'll return to it, carrying these memories like stones in your heart. The camp's lights flicker, casting long shadows, and you're grateful for the darkness, for it hides the weariness you cannot shake. You came back, but you bring the dead with you, their stories etched in your notebook, their keepsakes a testament to the enduring power of memory. The Normandy night drapes Omaha Beach in a velvet shroud, its darkness pierced only by the faint glow of camp lanterns and the distant flicker of stars. You, a chaplain at 32, sit alone in the quiet of the Allied camp, your Bible resting on a scarred wooden table, its pages unopened but heavy with the weight of the day's prayers. Your notebook, thick with names and coordinates, lies beside it, a silent archive of the fallen you've honored 6 days after D-Day's fury, June 6th, 1944. The air is cool, laced with the scent of damp earth and the faint salt of the sea, a reminder of the beach you left behind, its sands still whispering the stories of those who fell. The camp hums softly, soldiers' murmurs, the clink of metal, a distant laugh. But you feel the weight of the day, its faces and relics clinging to you like shadows that refuse to fade. You close your notebook, its pages curling from the rain, each entry a testament to the men you've named. Private Charles E. Norton, Sergeant Edward P. Hayes, Corporal Daniel R. Moore. Their keepsakes, tucked in your waterproof pouch, are heavier than their physical form. A photograph, a ring, a diary, each one a bridge to families who wait across the ocean, their hope as fragile as the paper you carry. You think of tomorrow, when the sun will rise on another day of searching, another list of names to record, another set of relics to gather. The war, relentless, will not pause, and neither will your task, a quiet defiance against the tide's attempt to erase these men. You muse, with a bitter twist, that the dawn must be tired of rising on such sorrow, yet it shows up anyway, like a soldier who forgot how to quit. The camp's noise fades, leaving only the soft rustle of canvas tents and the occasional call of a sentry. You run your fingers over the notebook's cover, its surface worn from the day's work, and feel the weight of the faces you've seen. Young, defiant, serene, each one a story cut short by the storm of D-Day. The history books will speak of the Allied invasion, the breach of Hitler's Atlantic Wall. But you know the true cost lies in these silent names, in the keepsakes that will carry their love and loss to those who wait. You think of your own life before this, a parish of quiet Sundays where faith was a matter of hymns and handshakes, and marvel at how it has led you here, to a place where hope is measured in the fragments you salvage from the sand. A grave's registration private passes by, his face shadowed by exhaustion, his shovel slung over his shoulder like a cross he cannot shed. Another day tomorrow, he says, his voice low, as he pauses to light a cigarette. Guess we'll keep the angels busy. His words, laced with the gallows humour of men who've walked too long in death's shadow, draw a fleeting nod from you. The jest is a fragile shield, a way to keep despair at bay, and you understand its necessity. You think of the beach, now cloaked in darkness, its dunes holding the relics of a battle that changed the world, the photograph of a girl and boy, the ring etched with forever, the diary promising flowers. They are your burden now, a testament to lives that ended too soon. You open your pouch, its contents spilling across the table. A locket with a lock of auburn hair, a watch stopped at 8:13, a letter to a mother who will never hear her son's voice again. Each item is a keepsake, a final tether to a life you'll never know, yet you carry them with a reverence that outweighs your Bible's words. You think of the families, perhaps still writing letters filled with hope, unaware that their loved ones now rest in Normandy's embrace. Your role is to ensure these keepsakes reach them, to bridge the chasm between the living and the dead, even if they bring sorrow. The irony is stark. You, a man of faith, are now a courier of endings, weaving prayers and relics into a tapestry of grief that no sermon can unravel. The night deepens, the camp growing quieter as soldiers retreat to their tents, their laughter fading into the darkness. You sit alone, the table a silent witness to your task, and feel the weight of the day's faces. Private Harold J. Vaughan, Corporal William T. Reese, Private Edward C. Morrow. Their stories, though unfinished, are etched in your memory, a gallery of sorrow you'll carry forever. You think of tomorrow, when you'll return to the beach, when new names will join the list, when new keepsakes will fill your pouch. The war, you reflect, is not just in the battles raging inland, but in these quiet acts of remembrance where names are salvaged from oblivion. The dawn will bring another day of searching, another chance to honor the fallen, another step in a task that feels both endless and essential. You close your Bible, its spine creaking softly, and place it beside your notebook, both now repositories of loss. The camp's lanterns flicker, casting long shadows, and you're grateful for the darkness, for it hides the weariness you cannot shake. You think of your own life, a world of quiet parishes and nodding congregants, and wonder how you'll return to it, carrying these memories like stones in your heart. The history of D-Day is not just in the triumphs of the living, but in these silent, night-cloaked moments, where names are preserved against the tide's relentless pull. You, a man of God, are now a keeper of silences, your prayers a defiance against the war's attempt to erase these men. Tomorrow begins again, and you will carry their stories, one name at a time. As the Normandy night enfolds you, dear listener, the chaplain's journey fades into the whispers of Omaha Beach, where names and keepsakes weave a tapestry of memory. You've walked through mud and mist, carried the weight of unsent letters, and spoken prayers for the fallen. Now, let your shoulders soften, your breath slow, and your body sink into the embrace of rest. If sleep eludes you, share your thoughts below. Where are you tonight, and what lingers in your heart? Tomorrow, another tale awaits, a gentle thread to guide you through the dark. Close your eyes, let the sea's murmur cradle you, and drift toward dreams, knowing these stories live on. For more WW2 history, D-Day reflections, and soothing sleep stories, join us again under the stars.